Okay, so over to Roxy.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Eswatini Country Strategy Program Evaluation Virtual Workshop. My name is Roxana Sami, and I have the honor and pleasure of being your moderator for this event. I would like to welcome Honorable Ministers of Agriculture and Finance who will be taking part in this event today. I would also like to welcome IFAD Associate Vice President for Program Management Department, IFAD Director of Independent Office of Evaluation, IFAD Director of East and Southern Africa, IFAD Country Director, Government Official, IFAD colleagues, and our partners. You know, at IFAD, we very much look forward to CSPE events as they provide an excellent forum to have a candid and constructive exchange and a dialogue to further improve the IFAD-funded operations on the ground. And the outcome of this type of events are absolutely useful for us to finalize the action plan that follows the CSPE recommendations. Now, we have a very exciting and packed agenda in front of us, so allow me to get a few housekeeping out of the way. Now, I'm sure after 2 years of incessant Zoom meetings, you have now all mastered the ins and outs of Zoom. But just a few reminders, may I ask the speakers to make sure that they are on a stable LAN connection? If you are using Wi-Fi, please make sure you limit the devices that are connected. And I am sure you all have the latest version of Zoom and a working set of headsets. Now, should you have an unstable connection, I kindly ask you to turn off your video. Now, with the housekeeping out of the way, I want to walk everyone through the agenda. We will first hear from Principal Secretary Mr. Masuku from the Ministry of Agriculture. We then have the honor of hearing the opening statement by Honorable Minister Mabuza, Minister of Agriculture. This will be followed by a statement from Indra Naidu, the Director of Independent Office of Evaluation, and Donald Brown, IFAD Associate Vice President for Program Management Department. Max Kojo will then present together with Tulia the findings of the CSPE. We'll then hear a short comment from our Rome-based agencies on the ground, FAO and WFP, and other partners. This will be followed by a question and answer session. So should you wish to pose your question, I kindly ask you to use the raise hand feature, which you will find in the reactions box. You may also use the chat box to type in your questions. After fielding your questions and comments, we will hear remarks from Yana Kitentara and our country director, and Sarah Mabogo Bunu, the division director for East and Southern Africa. Howard Mubisa will have the wonderful task of providing a synthesis of the conversation. And then we will close with a statement from Indra Naidu, the Director of Independent Office of Evaluation, and Honorable Minister Rijingberg, the Minister of Finance. So with the agenda overview out of the way, we can get going in earnest. And may I kindly ask Principal Secretary Masuku from the Ministry of Agriculture to kick us off. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to those who are in the afternoon zone, and good morning or good evening, dear friends and colleagues. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody to this important meeting, which we are going to be looking at a report on work that has been done in the agricultural sector in the Kingdom of Eswatini on the program that IFAD has been implementing over some few years, and looking forward to hearing where have we gone right, where have we gone wrong, and how to improve. But then I don't want to take too much time. I just want to request the Honorable Minister, Honorable Jabulani Mabuza MP, who's the Minister for Agriculture in the Kingdom of Eswatini, to officially open the meeting. May I request the Minister to take over? Honorable Minister, sir.
Thank you, PS Masugu. Good afternoon to everybody, and a warm welcome to all participants to the IFAD Country Strategy and Program Evaluation Workshop in Eswatini. I would like to recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister for Finance, whose portfolio is very crucial to the work program we undertake with IFAD and other external partners. And I recognize again the IFAD representatives in the persons of Indren Naido, Director, Independent Office Evaluation of IFAD, Donald Brown, Associate Vice President, Program Management Department, Saramba Gobunu, Regional Director of the East and Southern Africa Division, ESA, and Joanna Ketanranta, IFAD Country Director for Eswatini. We are grateful for the participation of other stakeholders, which include FAO, WFP, farmer organizations, financial institutions, and various government ministries and stakeholders. The Government of Eswatini and IFAD have a more than 30 years history in the agriculture development agenda. And during these years, we have collaborated in numerous initiatives aimed at improving performance of the agriculture sector through various innovations, including irrigation development, enhancing production and productivity of smallholder producers and market linkages. The programs have evolved in line with national strategies to address issues of climate change resilience, financial inclusion, and mainstreaming of vulnerable groups and food and nutrition security. During the period of implementation of these interventions, the country has achieved a 10% reduction in the prevalence of poverty from highs of 69% in the year 2000 to 58.9% in 2018. We believe that in part, this is attributed to the impact of IFAD-supported initiatives and to a large extent, the long-term consciousness ignited to inform policy and activate self-help activities on the direct beneficiaries of the programs. However, it is evident that we have a lot of ground to cover if we are to attain the goals of uplifting all our people out of poverty and hunger, while keeping pace with the ever-changing environmental landscape under which we operate, and these include climate change, pandemics, and the sheer competitiveness of other sectors. Program Director and dear participants, may I express government's ongoing commitment towards achieving overall sustainable and inclusive economic development at both national and international levels. Agriculture and the food security is one of key entry points that have been prioritized to achieve the desired quality growth to transform the lives of Emaswati. The articulated performance targets in this sector include attainment of national food security and nutrition, increased contribution to GDP, employment creation, and export generation. These targets requires joint efforts and a higher level of coordination in designing and implementing agriculture investment by both public and private sector entities. The findings and lessons learned from the IFAD evaluation of the previous and current programs should serve as a scale to measure the effort that is required to make a transformational change towards uplifting targeted beneficiaries and ultimately attaining the macro targets. It is great pleasure to see IFAD and government continuing their cooperation to increase investment in the sector. Such discussions and the country strategy underway comes at a time when the ministry is revising the National Agriculture Investment Plan, NAIP, where focus is on developing a basket of policy instruments to enable private sector investment and performance along priority value chains. Some groundwork has already been undertaken. Thanks to FAO for the support, and we encourage IFAD with her expertise and experience to also join hands and find her niche to collaborate in planning and mobilizing investment resources. This call does not only pertain to IFAD, but to all partners with an interest in the sector. They must join hands and ensure that the proposed NAIP measures can enable the performance of the producers and other actors in the value chains. As I conclude, Program Director, I once again appreciate the momentum of our collaborative partnership as government, development partners, and value chain sector actors, which today we are witnessing through this workshop, where we are going to reflect and learn on progress that we have made over the years. Thanks to the IFAD for conducting the country strategy and programs evaluations. We look forward to exciting future plans, acceleration of investments, and eventually attaining improved welfare for all. These include the need to accelerate the processes we are jointly working on together with FAO on assessing GCF funding. With these remarks, it is my honor to declare this workshop officially opened, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thanks ever so much, Honorable Minister, for those remarks. And thank you very much for highlighting a very successful achievement, that of 10% reduction in poverty, which may seem a drop in the ocean, but yet it is a huge achievement. And it just underscores the fact of the importance of long-term development. And I'm sure as the government, under your leadership, and the partners work together towards your national agriculture plan, together with everyone in the country, we will all manage to bring about the rural transformation that IFAD is really keen to achieve in every country that it operates. Thank you very much, sir. May I now kindly ask Indra Naidu, the Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, to share with us his expectations and to set the stage for what will follow. Indra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Program Director. Honorable Jabulani Mabuza, Minister of Agriculture, distinguished representatives of the Government of Eswatini, representatives of IFAD, partner institutions and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be part of this virtual national workshop organized by the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD in collaboration with the Government of Eswatini and the East and Southern Africa Division of IFAD. This workshop follows the finalization of the country strategy and program evaluation and provides an opportunity to share and discuss the main findings and recommendations with the government, IFAD, and other stakeholders and partners. I would like to start by expressing my appreciation to the Government of Eswatini and to both the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Finance for their collaboration on this evaluation. Our appreciation goes to the project teams and partner organizations for sharing insights, supporting field visits, and patience in responding to numerous requests for data and information from the evaluation team. I would also like to recognize the support of the IFAD Program Management Department, in particular, Mr. Donald Brown, Associate Vice President, Ms. Sarah Bangu Bunu, Director of IFAD's East and Southern Africa Division, Ms. Jana Kitan Ranta, IFAD's Country Director for Eswatini and the SR Regional Team. Finally, I would like to thank the evaluation team led by Mr. Maximin Kojwa, Lead IOE Evaluation Officer, who ably covered for Ms. Monica Lumena Jealous, IOE Senior Evaluation Officer, who launched the evaluation, and the team of national and international consultants. Ms. Laure Vidaud, Evaluation Assistant, provided efficient administrative support to the team and to the organization of today's events. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first highlight the importance of the independent evaluation function. The Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD undertakes impartial and evidence-based evaluations of projects, country programs, and corporate policies to assess the results achieved and to generate lessons to enhance the impact of IFAD-supported development interventions on people's lives. Over the past 2 decades, Eswatini has made significant progress in reducing the poverty level. However, 20% of the population still lives below the extreme poverty line, and almost 70% of the rural population is considered poor. Frequent extreme weather-related events and water stress also pose threats to the efforts for sustainable development. From 1983, IFAD had financed 6 projects in Eswatini with US $54.5 million for a total project cost of $368.4 million. After almost 4 decades, the partnership between IFAD and the government remains pertinent to make rural economy more inclusive and sustainable and reduce poverty and hunger. It is my sincere hope that this evaluation, which covered the period from 2000 to 2021, will contribute to improving the effectiveness of the strategic partnership between the Government of Eswatini and IFAD. I would also like to highlight a few key evaluation findings, while Mr. Max Kojwa will deliver a more comprehensive presentation later. The evaluation found that the partnership between IFAD and the Government of Eswatini has been constructive and fruitful. IFAD-supported strategies and programs have contributed to setting the building stones for the national rural finance system and enabling smallholders access the financial products suited to their needs. The partnership also enabled the development and strengthening of industrial and local value chains through, among others, investment in large and small-scale irrigation and water management schemes. Over time, some tangible positive results were achieved, and many participants in these programs saw an improvement in their livelihoods. On the other hand, some areas deserve attention. Firstly, the CSPE found that IFAD did not sufficiently address, through its strategy and program in Eswatini, some fundamental constraints that prevent rural smallholder producers from achieving more sustainable livelihoods. These include the lack of secure access to land for women and youth, the dependency of all producers on imported inputs for agriculture and livestock, which unfortunately has proved during the COVID-19 pandemic to present a major risk, and the limited level of empowerment of producer organizations in both irrigated and rain-fed agriculture. Secondly, the long-term sustainability of the major investments made in developing the LUSIP1 irrigation scheme appear to be at risk due to the decreasing net returns to smallholder from sugarcane production. Lastly, operational aspects that range from complex and ineffective implementation arrangements to weak procurement, monitoring and evaluation systems have hampered the smooth implementation of projects. As evaluators, we have provided an impartial assessment of IFAD's program in Eswatini. Now, with your support, we can get a better understanding of future opportunities and ways to overcome constraints to promote inclusive, sustainable, and resilient transformation of the rural economy. I thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Indra. No doubt that during the rest of the event, the participants will be addressing the various issues that you eloquently highlighted, namely the issue of sustainability, implementation arrangement, M&E, and equitable beneficiary access to land, financial products, and other resources. It is now a pleasure to give the floor to Donald Brown, IFAD's Associate Vice President for Program Management Department, to deliver his statement. And I'm sure Donald's statement will provide us a strategic guidance for future interventions and strategies. So the floor is yours, Donald.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished participants and Honourable Minister. It's my great pleasure to be with you today to discuss the country strategy and evaluation for Eswatini, a country where IFAD has been working hand in hand with the government since 1983. I always look forward to reading the country strategies conducted by the Independent Office of Evaluation, as they really get to the core of our work and provide rich and constructive insights to hold us all to account, IFAD and government, and help us all to improve, because in the end, this is about a partnership between IFAD and the Kingdom of Eswatini. And so we need to be hand in hand, working together, and also taking on board the issues raised. And this country strategy program evaluation for Eswatini is no exception. And it comes at a really good time as we're preparing IFAD's new country strategy for the period 2022 to 2027, as well as a new investment project scheduled for 2023. In this regard, I'm pleased to note that the recommendations from this CSPE have been well integrated into the draft new country strategy document. And we recognize that while Eswatini has recently achieved strong progress in reducing poverty, there are still several challenges faced by the rural people in the country, including increasing vulnerability to climate change, low agricultural productivity and diversity, limited access to financial services, and high post-harvest losses. Not to mention the specific challenges faced by women and youth and the need for the country to recover from the economic damage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. So the lessons from this CSPE, which help us to solve these challenges in the future operations in the country and build a more effective and efficient IFAD country program and partnership with government, will ultimately deliver the best possible development impact for the people of Eswatini. So as management, we're glad to see the extensive scope of the evaluation report spanning 2 decades and 4 lending operations totaling 41 million of IFAD investments and a total portfolio value of over $300 million. And in terms of the report, 3 things particularly struck me. The first is the clear progress that we have made together over time in several areas, for example, including the speed of project startup, in improving targeting, especially of women and youth, in partnerships, and also in our ability to adapt projects during implementation to resolve issues. The second thing which struck me were the comments around the complexity of some project designs. The CSPE correctly notes that we shouldn't shy away from complexity where needed, but the key takeaway for me, which is not only from this CSPE, but elsewhere, is that we need to ensure all project activities are well aligned as part of a coherent strategy. And actually, sometimes simplicity is the best recipe for success. And success in design also depends on pinning down the right implementation arrangements. And actually, this is a recommendation I cannot agree with more. As we've seen, project success very, very often is dependent on the right capacity and implementation arrangements. Thirdly, the issues which others have highlighted on monitoring and evaluation and the low rating of partnerships. On partnerships, while the CSPE does highlight recent improvements, we must try to continue this trend, building on the recent progress through initiatives such as the well-performing grant with the International Potato Centre, plus the strong progress we have made with government in the policy dialogue for the rural financial sector. On monitoring and evaluation, we must work with government to find solutions to ensure, among other issues, that project management units have the right capacity for M&E, and that baseline, midline, and endline data collection is conducted systematically and effectively. Without it, we will not know what we've achieved, and we will not be able to improve because we cannot course correct. So in conclusion, I'm very proud of what we've achieved so far in Eswatini through our fruitful relationship with government and other partners. But I'm also very aware we can always do better and must do better. And I am committed to ensure that the recommendations from this evaluation are implemented as we move forward to strengthen our partnership with government. And I will be listening carefully to the other points raised in discussion this afternoon. And thank you again to IOE for the excellent report, to the government for the strong partnership, and I look forward to an interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald. I think with your great call to action, we must do better, still echoing, we can now get to the nuts and bolts. So I would like to ask Max and Tulia to kindly share the findings of the CSPE. So Max, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roxy. Okay, before I start the presentation, I want to acknowledge the contribution of all colleagues who widely contributed to this great work. First of all, Ms. Tulia Ayazi, who ably managed key steps of the evaluation. Other consultants include Ms. Margherita Borselli, Mr. Amor Baluri, Ms. Nokutura Lucas, Mr. Misebisi Mwanazi, Ms. Teresa Maru Muro, Ms. Nicolette Nudrou, and Mr. Barry Makosonke. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, the presentation will include 4 parts. I will do the introduction and hand over to Ms. Tulia to present the main finding and conclusion, and I will come back at the end to present the recommendation. So with due delay, let's start with the introduction. Next slide. As per IOE manual, the objective of the evaluation were to assess the result and performance of the IFAD strategy and program in Eswatini, and to generate findings and lessons that are useful for improving the future partnership between IFAD and the government of Eswatini. And this will surely enhance the development effectiveness and rural poverty alleviation in Eswatini. Aligned with this objective, the formulation of the third Eswatini result-based course has already started, and the finding has already benefited from this, as mentioned by Donald. In a context featured by the COVID-19 pandemic and national unrest, the evaluation applied a mixed method approach that includes review, semi-structured interview conducted virtually and face-to-face visits within 1 week, followed also by key informant interview through telephone discussion. Therefore, the field visits were implemented by the team of national consultants to observe realization and interact with beneficiaries in several chiefdoms of Eswatini. The phone interview followed after in October, just to have some of in-depth discussion. We have to mention two main limitations of this evaluation: the poor availability of impact data and the limited time spent in the field due to the COVID-19 pandemic and security issue. Next slide. So let's have an overview of IFAD operation in Eswatini. As already mentioned by Donald, for instance, the Eswatini, IFAD has been operating in Eswatini since 1983. In terms of coverage, the CSPE cover 21-year time frame, meaning from 2000 to 2001. During that time frame, there were 2 COSOP and 2 country strategic notes. And those documents oriented IFAD intervention. The CSPE assessed the lending portfolio over the evaluated period that included 4 investment projects. 2 of them were completed. 1 was midterm reviewed, and 1 is still ongoing. Other main point assessed related to non-lending activity that include knowledge management, partnership building, policy engagement, and grant. Let's mention quickly that the country director for that managed Eswatini portfolio is based in Johannesburg since 2018. And the sub-regional hub is already in Nairobi. So the whole team have supported in terms of the program implementation in the country. Next slide. So we have here a figure that shows an overview of the IFAD strategy operation over the reviewed period. As you can see, as with the color, the blue, the pink, the orange, and the green, there were 4 strategic documents over the period. But we can see that there is 1 white period that means between 2012 and 2016, there were no COSOP documents that have oriented intervention. So this gap has been filled after with country strategy notes. Based on this, the CSPE analyzed all intervention, but also the strategic objective, and drew lessons from loan and grant supported operation, as well as completed and ongoing intervention. So let me hand over now to Tulia to present main finding. Over to you, Tulia.
Thank you so much, Max, and good afternoon, excellencies and guests and colleagues. It's an honor to be here today and present the key findings of the CSPE on IFAD's performance in Eswatini. So we are talking about the project portfolio and the strengths. The evaluation found that the IFAD portfolio has been relevant to national strategies and policies, to the successive IFAD strategy frameworks, and most importantly, to the needs of the poor. In this regard, an important element has been the improvement over time of project targeting strategies through the introduction of self-targeting measures and differentiation of the services that have been offered to the different groups of producers based on their specific needs. IFAD support was also quite successful in establishing and developing the national rural finance sector, which did not really exist before, and which is further supported at the moment by the Finclude project. Another area of success was the development of smallholder sugarcane production within the national export-oriented sugar industry. Among other achievements, IFAD contributed to the establishment of smallholder farmer companies that have access to and control over land and water in the LUSIP 1 project development area. as well as access to credit from financial institutions that has enabled their functioning. Next slide, please. Another set of strengths that we identified include the following. IFAD contributed to strengthening the social and human capital of smallholder producers and rural communities through the introduction of community development plans, the setup of community development committees, and you already mentioned farmer companies. These institutions have been quite innovative, as innovative has been the support to the rural finance sector framework. Innovative have been new crop varieties of the nutritious orange flesh sweet potato and the livestock production models proposed by IFAD's projects. For example, the piloting of a non-farm feed production system associated to mini beef lots and the ongoing improved production of indigenous chickens. It is important to mention that the government has adopted and scaled up most of these innovations. As you all know, women's empowerment and gender equality are an important element of IFAD's interventions. And in Eswatini, rural women represent a large part of the participants in IFAD-supported projects. Basically, however, because they are the ones responsible for agricultural production in rural areas. Hence, there is quite some room for improvement regarding their empowerment and achieving gender equality. And we must say that in this regard, we have seen improvements over time in IFAD's portfolio and performance, for example, through the setup of project gender units and the development of project gender strategies. IFAD has also been quite successful in leveraging additional resources to mainstream in its projects, activities that address environment and natural resources management and adaptation to climate change. Results have been overall quite positive, and the activities and the results appear sustainable. Next slide, please. There have been some challenges and some pending issues, however. As already mentioned, the CSPE found that project designs and implementation arrangements have been quite complex, and at times they didn't take into sufficient account the local and national context. And this has, in some cases, affected efficiency and effectiveness of implementation. We have mentioned the sugarcane value chain, but IFAD also engaged in developing local value chains, in particular of pulses, vegetables, honey, goats, indigenous chickens, and pigs. Progress by the time of the CSPE was somewhat uneven. And for example, pig and honey producers were not sufficiently rewarded for their work. Evidence suggested that this was due to the weak performance of the innovation platforms, also known as multi-stakeholder platforms, that did not ensure a fair distribution of returns to all actors along the value chain, as it was expected. Results were also short of expectations with respect to the setup and capacity development of local institutions responsible for the management of the irrigation scheme at the farm level in the LUSIP 1 scheme. For example, water users associations were not operational in 2021, and there is a dispersion of the communication lines that does not favor the efficient use of water by farmer companies. Challenges have also emerged in the construction of small-scale water management infrastructures, which were few compared to plans and late in implementation. Next, please. Another challenge was represented by the low level of inclusion in IFAD's projects of the most vulnerable households and people who only have access limited to means of production, such as land and household labor. This because the production and market focus of IFAD's interventions prevents the poorer producers from participating. We acknowledge that this is a common issue across many IFAD projects in many countries, not just in Eswatini. Still, It is a quite crucial issue because it affects the actual contribution of IFAD-supported interventions to the broader goals of poverty reduction and improvement of food security. You have already heard about the contractual arrangements with service providers and other executing partners that were complex, and we noted also a lack of clarity among stakeholders about project objectives and approaches. Last, a recent challenge is the trend towards diminishing returns for smallholder producers of sugarcane, which risks jeopardizing the sustainability of the investments made and of the farmer companies. Next slide, please. We, as already mentioned, we have also analyzed the non-lending activities by IFAD. Grants, the CSPE found a satisfactory level of integration of regional grants in the IFAD portfolio, which has led to synergies at various levels. One example, among others, the integration of the orange flesh sweet potato piloting at farmer level within the ongoing LAP project. Regarding knowledge management, lessons have been learned from previous projects into new project designs. There has also been a reasonable level of capitalization and sharing of experiences on rural finance and environmental sustainability, as well as on livestock production through South-South cooperation. Policy engagement has been particularly successful in the rural finance sector, as already mentioned. There has also been some engagement by IFAD on land and water management, but results have not been equally tangible. Regarding partnership development, we found that the partnership between IFAD and the government of Eswatini and its implementing agencies was robust and sustained over time. However, most partnerships with other organizations were in fact contractual relationships that are not based on a peer type of collaboration. Next slide, please. So, where does this all take us as concluding key points? First, IFAD strategies and programs have supported industrial and local value chains, as well as large and small scale irrigation and water management schemes. And these are important achievements. IFAD has set the building stones for the national rural finance system, as mentioned, and many participants in these programs have seen a significant improvement in their livelihoods. However, not all expected results have been achieved. The second key finding was that IFAD country strategies were accurate in their analysis of the issues that contribute to rural poverty in Eswatini. However, IFAD has made only limited attempts at making smallholder producers more autonomous and self-reliant, including, for example, by giving them a stronger voice in the value chain innovation platforms, by strengthening water users associations, by providing more empowering approaches to capacity development. Reduction of farmers' dependence on imported inputs was not really addressed, as facilitating access to land for youth and women was only recently slightly touched upon. These are, however, issues that are fully within IFAD's mandate and that could be addressed by developing alliances with partners and national stakeholders. Next slide, please. The third key finding conclusion was that important threats are emerging with regards to the economic, institutional and technical sustainability of the sugarcane smallholders production in the LUSIP 1 project development area. The threats include the lack of local institutions such as water users associations, the decreasing yields of the sugarcane crop and due to a life cycle, and the inability of the pharma companies to invest in crop renovation because of increasing production costs and diminishing returns. Unless these threats are addressed in a timely manner, we consider that the livelihoods of thousands of households could be seriously affected and returns to investments decrease significantly. Another key finding was that implementation arrangements deployed throughout the country program were very complex and complicated, and possibly lacked clarity with regards to the roles and responsibilities of implementing and executing agencies, service providers, and other partners. In addition, there was no evidence of adequate lessons, learning, or discussions happening around what would be the most effective role for the government in providing services to rural producers. This could be done through directly or through parastatals or the private sector or the nonprofit sector. Unless these expectations are explicitly addressed, we think that future project implementation risks being short of expectations. Again, fifth, mostly due to low attention paid by project implementation units, the project monitoring systems did not provide timely information to program managers on progress, challenges, participants, and partners. And due to staffing challenges, procurement activities did not support project implementation as required. These were missed opportunities for a more effective and efficient project performance. Max, over to you. Thank you to all for listening.
Based on those main findings, the evaluation made the following recommendation. Number one, IFAD should address through its strategy and program in Eswatini the fundamental constraints that prevent rural smallholder producers, women, and youth from achieving more sustainable livelihood. Issues that require attention include access to land, dependency on imported input for agriculture and livestock, strengthening and empowering producer organizations in both irrigated and rain-fed agriculture. Second, IFAD should further engage at a minimum in advocacy and advisory role in addressing the emerging threats to the livelihood of smallholder producers who have their holding in the LUSIP 1 PGA. IFAD and the government should collaborate to develop a program aimed at tackling the challenge producers are facing so as to avoid the collapse of the scheme and of farmers' livelihood. Number three, IFAD and the government of Eswatini, drawing on the rich lessons learned over time, should define which are the most efficient and effective implementation arrangements for the joint evaluation that will also allow smallholder producers to better benefit. This entails an explicit discussion about the advantage and disadvantage of the various implementation arrangements deployed so far, also to identify the best approach that maximizes positive results for the intended target population. Recommendation number 4, project monitoring and evaluation system and procurement unit will be considered fundamental pillars of project management and be adequately staffed and capacitated to perform in an effective and efficient manner. So those are the 4 recommendations. That's right. Thank you very much for your attention, and we reach the end of the presentation. Over to Roxy.
Thank you very much, Max and Tulia, for sharing these the key findings, but also at the same time highlighting the many successes, which no doubt will be the foundation for future IFAD-funded activities. You've also identified a number of challenges that need to be addressed so that together with the government and our partners and beneficiaries, we can indeed bring about the necessary rural transformation. This really gives me a nice segue to the next segment of this event, which is the interaction and the question and answer session. So I encourage you to pose your questions in the chat box, or alternatively use the raise hand feature. But before going to the floor, I just hope that we do have our colleagues from WFP and FAO in the audience. And if we do, I really would love for them to tell us from their perspective on this particular CSPE recommendation of strategic partnership, which was also highlighted by Indran and by Donald. How can together we actually forge these strategic partnerships so that we can enhance rural transformation in Eswatini? So if we do have our UN-based agencies online, I really would love for them to respond to this question. If we don't, then I would like, for example, for Lynn or Punzila to address that, or maybe a member of government to do that. And in the meantime, if you wish to type in your questions, that would be great. Okay, it looks like maybe we do not have our FAO and WFP colleagues. So Lynn, may I ask you to kick us off?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Roxana. I think in terms of partnerships with what's termed the Rome-based organizations, it's really key that is done. We have seen it, the benefits of that, when you find that, for example, the FAO, for example, is engaged or is engaging particular communities in ways to, improve their livelihoods, and also a project that is financed by IFAD is also doing the same, instead of, and if we realize as the different development agencies that FAO, for example, is doing, let me say, conservation agriculture in one area, and which is in the project area of the SMFP, for example, also on conservation agriculture, then to put our resources, together, and not, fund the same household with the same things, and also put in the knowledge, of the different partners together to sort of assist the particular communities. And again, it really also helps, in terms of providing, a variety of assistance that will, at the end of the day, ensure the sustainability of whatever initiative that is being pursued in particular communities. So really, I think if we do more and more of that, we would see more impact. Like, for example, we've started, collaborating or doing things together with UNDP, in terms of providing processing plants, for example, for honey and for you know, and with well, it's not UN-based, but COMESA for Indigenous chickens with SEDCO, and in that way you find that all the resources, you know, come up, the combination of resources come up with much better and more, you know, sustainable kind of, you know, initiatives than it would have been if it was just one organization. And it also removes the turf wars, you know, because if we have turf wars as development practitioners, the communities play us against one against the other, you know, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't, you know, come up, you know, to sustainable livelihood improvement for them, you know, because they pit us against one another, and we're now in competition. And
Sure.
we've realized that, and we've started working together, you know, in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you. And thank you for being so gracious as I put you on the spot. I see that we do have a colleague from FAO in the audience. So Kutberg, over to you.
Thank you very much. My network was problematic, and I can't even put a video. Just before I proceed, can you confirm you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. And I also request you to repeat the question. I just got a little bit around how the Rome-based agencies can work together, maybe to improve in programming and targeting. Did I get it correctly, the question?
You're muted, Roxy. Roxana, you are muted.
Thank you that you unmuted me. The question is around strategic partnerships. So if you could tell us from your perspective, based on the CSPE recommendation, how can working together with the different partners and government, we can enhance rural transformation in Eswatini?
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I think I had gotten it. So yeah. Well, in the past, from what I've my experience, and by the way, my name is Cuthbert Kambanje. I'm agro-food systems and investment policy specialist, actually coming from the sub-regional office in Southern Africa. But I work from Eswatini, and I'm standing in for the country representative, Ms. Kanye Mabuza, who is on leave. Yes, coming back to the question, the FAO and IFAD in the past have not really had serious, what I can say is serious collaboration. But from the time that I've seen in the programming in the country, I've actually seen a lot of action around it. At the moment, I can let you know that we started off with a COVID response project, which was funded by the Multi-Partner Trust Fund. But when we had a discussion with our IFAD counterparts, they immediately picked up the idea, and we were able to upscale a very innovative idea, which was supporting smallholder farmers and linking them up with transporters and vendors. Those people who are usually excluded from the normal programming, as it were, because they are not seen, they are not registered anywhere, and they are informal. So that innovation, that project, IFAD did not even hesitate to through the poor rural stimulus facility, and it's under implementation as we speak. So it's one of the examples of when Rome-based agencies are speaking to each other, and they can quickly achieve results. And we are also, I would say, if the communication is open as it is now, we are doing so many things, and we are so excited that we looking forward the collaboration between FAO in particular and IFAD will be much better in the future, considering the GCF proposals that we are working. And if I want to give a quick background to that, we in the country, there were 4 proposals that were going to the GCF, and one from GCF, for those who might not know, is the Green Climate Fund. There was a proposal from FAO, there was a proposal from IFAD, there was a proposal from UNEP, there was a proposal from UNDP. And we were told to go back and reorganize ourselves, because for a country of the size of Eswatini, it didn't make economic sense to have 4 proposals going to the GCF. The transaction cost would be so high. So we immediately, having a good relationship and working together with IFAD, we reorganized ourselves and we found each other quickly. And now, as I speak, we are working together to submit a proposal. I think it's around 70 million. But the underlying fact in the proposal is that we've used our complementarities. And this goes back to what my colleague who was just speaking now mentioned, that on the ground, there are areas where FAO is strong. And remember that FAO has got a fully-fledged representation in the country, and IFAD operates from the regional office and from Johannesburg. And as such, we are actually a good partner when it comes to things that need faster action on the ground and so on. So the complementarities, recognizing the complementarities between the ROM agencies has helped us a lot. But what the major source of our excitement is that we've been sharing the work that we've been doing as FAO, supporting the government on value chain planning, on the Agricultural Development Fund, and many other initiatives. And so we've been sharing all that work. And I can let you know that some of this work has already found its expression in the upcoming country strategy for IFAD. So there are so many elements to it, which also include the information sharing, working as peers, without just looking on the financial side of things, things like that. Okay. But let me just conclude by saying that we are also very much excited. The message by the minister was that they are looking forward to seeing IFAD working with FAO. We are supporting the process, the National Agriculture Investment Plan process, and we really look forward to stronger participation of IFAD in that respect. And so this is what we are looking forward to. I think I'll pause there for now, Chair. Over to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. And it's very reassuring to know that we do have strong partners on the ground. So as Max has encouraged all of you, you can pose your questions in the chat box or alternatively use the raise hand feature. While you are thinking of your succinct and well-formulated question, I would like to pose a question to Samson Sithole. And what I would like to ask you, sir, is how will you building a solid foundation for assessing project impact and ultimately project sustainability?
Thank you, ma'am. I missed the question. Could you please come again?
Sure. So how are you planning to build a solid foundation for assessing project impact and ultimately project and program sustainability? Because this has been one of the recommendations or one of the findings of the CSPE.
It's actually a difficult question to answer. I have looked at the recommendation and I am still making my mind as to how to approach that recommendation. So my apologies, I can't give any views right now.
Okay, thank you for being so honest. I think this is very much appreciated. I'm going to put the question to the floor to see if there's anybody else who would like to take it, but I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Minister of Finance, His Excellency Regine-Burg. Thank you very much, sir, for making time to being with us. So do I have a taker for the sustainability question? Yes, Lynn, go.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the ways in which that can be tackled, or in which we have tackled it, is to develop an exit and sustainability strategy right from the start of the project. You know, for example, we know that project has a start and an end, you know, and we know that there is government, ministries and departments that will always be there, you know, so including them, or, you know, having them be part, you know, of the project team in a way, not necessarily secondment, but, you know, in each region where, you know, the project area is, there are, you know, government officers that are in there that also know the project in and out and know what is happening, and it's part of their deliverables, you know, in the ministries or that they report to. So they report on the same things that we also report on, but you know, they report to their own principles, so that at the end of the project, you know, they continue, you know, doing that, even if the project has come to an end. We actually have seen some successes in that, in terms of also skills transfer, you know, because government has the advantage, you know, that they are exposed to a lot of training, of which projects, by their very nature, you cannot, you know, take a person to do their master's degree and so on. But with government, that is done, and those skills are then transferred to project staff, and vice versa. Skills from project staff transferred to government officials, and also, you know, in terms of the sharing of resources. Again, we start, you know, building a sort of a ground, you know, whereby government should start, you know, putting in their budget, you know, what was being done by the project, you know, to ensure, you know, that whatever it is that is going to be still required by the community to reach the impact, because impact is long term. So government also budgets for that, so that even at the end of the project, it's like nothing is changing until, you know, for you know, impact, you know, to be reached. So basically, it's in an exits and sustainability strategy from the very onset of a project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Now, building on this, I would like to go to Punzila and ask her about how you would be integrating sustainability in the FinInclude.
Thank you, Roxanne. I think for FinInclude, the approach is more or less the same way in which Lynn has described. And I also think that comes strongly from the fact that in the inception of FinInclude, which followed SMLP, there has been a lot of engagement and learning from now the already existing project by IFAD. And that was mainly to ensure that we do not repeat the same mistakes the other project has done. And I think the strengthening of the relationships between the two projects has been very crucial. So in terms of now the long-term sustainability, the approach already is engaging stakeholders from the ministry. And FinInclude, since it's a cluster development approach that is used on the ground, we are working closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, and that allows for the officers in the other ministries to actually adopt the methodology. So now the project is already on its midterm year. Now we are at that point where we are starting to put down there's knowledge management products to say what has been happening. But the good thing is that the stakeholders that we are working with on the various components of the project, they're already on board. It's a methodology that they understand already. So I think the first part, as mentioned, is learning strongly from an existing project or an outgoing project. So it also even helps in terms of targeting. So you know the interventions that you have with the different stakeholders, and it allows you to maximize on upgrading the kinds of interventions as opposed to making repeats of what has already been done with the same farmers on the ground by the other project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Punzila. That was, yeah, that was very nicely put. Now, I would like to ask the Small Enterprise Development Company to give us a private sector perspective. So how would you like to engage, you know, in this arena, and what are the things that you would like to do and to see changed, perhaps? Because this was also something that the minister, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture mentioned, that will be the collaboration with the private sector will be part of the National Agriculture Strategy. So over to the representative from SEDECO, and then I'll give the floor to Sarah. Okay, so maybe if the representative of SEDECO is still not there or thinking, I'll give the floor to Sarah and then we come back. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roxana. Thank you for directing and moderating this session. All protocols observed, I'd just like to dig deep into the question, this all important question you posed actually, of sustainability. I do see SEDECO here, Mr. Nguisa, so perhaps he'll come in after me. I think it's an absolutely fundamental question of sustainability, and it starts off, if I may respond to it, with the framework of the recommendations provided by IOE. And you mentioned already the need to look at how the irrigation schemes that have already been invested, the infrastructure that has been put in place, how we can actually develop operation and maintenance systems and a management model that is going to be sustainable beyond the efforts and the lives of any project. And I think there's great opportunities to build on this in the Kingdom of Eswatini, given the importance of sugarcane to the economy. We already have the chiefdom development committees, and the chiefdom development plans as low-hanging fruit. And I think we can build on that to really come up with community management models for these schemes that are actually market-based, and that would enable and empower the farmer producer groups to be able to manage those schemes in such a way that they can actually get the margins that are needed. Now going forward as well, we do understand advancements in biodiversity and environmental management. Sugarcane does require a lot of water, and the country is with a cluster development that Ms. Lynn Kauter talked about extensively, trying to diversify its offering. And I think this is also an area of sustainability where you can come to an optimization of the crop mix on these schemes to tap into regional markets. So there's an opportunity at the market level as well to stimulate sustainability. And at livelihood level, at the farm gate, we want to expand assets. We want to build resilience of small scale farmers. And I think there's been quite a lot of success in rainwater harvesting technologies, appropriate types of blue water investments for water irrigation and management that could be also introduced and invested in. So I think there as well, there's a different level of sustainability. And also finally, I think when we look at skill sets and we look at the question of youth and the question of women, I think the chiefdoms hold a lot of promise in the way they can develop tenure security models. IFAD has many experiences in East Africa, for instance, of how land can be leased and how land can be recognized for use, for optimal use by other groups who might not own it. So it's not really about land ownership, but land tenure systems and models, which could unlock a lot of promise. So these are some of the just ideas and reflections that I want to throw into this forum and see how FAO, colleagues, WFP, the Rome-based agencies, and other, of course, stakeholders can look at opportunities of embracing them. I'll stop here. We can continue, of course, but this is just to stimulate more reflection. Back to you, Roxana.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you. That was, you gave a lot of food for thought. Thank you for that. So may I go, yes, Mr. Masuku.
Thank you, moderator. I just want to throw another dimension in this discussion. How, as implementers, as organizations view agriculture and how we approach the whole discipline. If you get sick, you go to a doctor. That doctor must be qualified, being able to deliver according to his or her training. But then when it comes to agriculture, we go to somebody sitting there in the rural area. We expect him or her to deliver on something he may not even be interested in. He doesn't have the experience, he doesn't have the qualification on. I think the way agriculture is viewed is just like everyone can do it. So when we talk of poverty alleviation, let's go on agricultural project for poverty alleviation. When we talk of jobs, let's create agricultural jobs, people will be employed. I mean, we know, go to all other developed countries, that those that are advanced in agriculture is where agriculture is taken as a profession. You have to be willing and having the means and the ability to deliver on agriculture. But in our cases, we come with projects that goes to the rural people and say, we are building a dam for you, form schemes, go and produce. I mean, did they say they want that? We have said they should do it. That is what they need. I mean, I think the way we look at agriculture, having served in this ministry for over 30 years, I've seen a lot of money being invested in rural people. Now we're talking youth in agriculture, women in agriculture, women in agriculture. Did they say they want to join agriculture? Personally, I've seen recently, there are some young people who are now going big in maize production or vegetable production because they have decided that now we want to go into agriculture, not the forced approach. Because what we're doing now, what we're talking about, all these programs is sort of like forced approach. We've built a dam there, so you have to produce. We've done this, we have this feedlot, you have to produce. I mean, let's work on the capacity aspect and the willingness. For me, if I were, things will go my way, I would take all the land from those people who are unable to produce and give to those who can produce, and then feed the nation. Because now we're saying we are not self-sufficient. It's not because we cannot produce, it's because the land is in the hands of those who are not willing, not that they are not able, they are not willing. You can give them all the support, all the financial, but if somebody is not willing, he is not willing. So I think as we do proceed on this programming, we should consider these things. We should look at the failures of the past. Of 7 millions, if not billions, of resources that have been put in the rural areas for improving production, productivity, but have we been successful? Have we looked at what exactly is happening? But if I go to a doctor now, he's qualified with everything, I'll get the right injection, hopefully I will get better. You go to a lawyer, you don't just go to anybody and I have this case, can you take me, blah, blah, blah. I think we need to rethink on the approach. Otherwise, we'll continue throwing in funding and funding forever. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that very upfront perspective. Very much appreciated. I want to go back to our SEDECO colleagues. So if you don't mind, Sarah says you're there. So we all look forward to hearing from you. Okay, maybe our SEDECO colleague is a little bit shy.
We can't hear, I think, Buisa has unmute, but we can't hear anything.
Okay.
I see. Hello? No, we can't hear anything. Mbuisa, Shubunzo, we can't hear.
Okay, so as they sort out their audio, why don't I then ask perhaps sir, do you want to take the floor? I see SEDECO, so if we can unmute you, then you can take the floor.
I see Lawazi Mamba also, which is a CEO of another company, maybe.
Okay, so let's just do this in order. So the representative SEDECO, sir, would you like to take the floor? Okay, you are unmuted if you wish to talk.
Program Director, my name is Luazimamba. If I may I have the floor? I've just been mentioned by our colleague Mbuyisa.
Sure.
Is recommending I say something.
Sure. So
Okay.
if you don't mind then talking about how can we better strengthen farmer organizations?
Okay. Thank you, Program Director. My name is Luazimamba. As I've been introduced, I work for Eswatini National Agricultural Union as the Executive Director. I'm so excited to be part of this meeting today, and I observe all protocol and everyone that is here. I've also worked with farmers for a past couple of years, and I have observed a number of things which I would like to present to this meeting as a suggestion from our point of view. We've served as part of a number of steering committees and technical working groups for some of the projects that are IFAD funded. And we are happy with the experience that we got from there. One of the missing link we have seen as a union is investment that goes direct to farmer organizations with the aim of building their capacities to support the projects and also to support the farmer organizations at local level, be it the cooperatives, be it the associations themselves. In Eswatini, we have got the Eswatini National Agricultural Union, and we also have Eswatini Farmers Cooperative Union. These are the two farmer organizations that are apex bodies. And I would really love to see a situation whereby they are capacitated to also actively participate in projects that are aimed at supporting farmers at local level. And also aspects that we are seeing lagging behind are aspects of governance. We have got farmer companies associations and cooperatives that are starting every day, and a number of them are no longer functional. I don't remember exactly the study, what it was saying in terms of the functional and those that are not functional in terms of the cooperatives that we have in the country, but the majority are no longer functional. And one of the missing link or the weakest link is with regards to governance. They do not have stronger governance principles, and they do not have good mentorship and monitoring from the different institutions, including from the farmer organizations like ourselves, because of the lack of capacity, of course. So one of the aspects that we would like to see being strengthened are issues of governance for farmer organizations at local level, so that they may be able to deliver the much needed support to their members. And another principle that we are seeing being left out, not monitored at farmer organizations level, is the issue of the business management principles that are expected to be observed by the leaders and the staff that works at the farmer organization level. For the projects that we are doing to be sustainable, farmer organizations have got a role to play. And for them to, for the initiatives that we start to be sustainable, there've got to be some economic aspects into what has been started. That then will help the farmers not to always be looking forward for grants, but it will make the members to be ready to pay for the services of the farmer organizations, because it is only the services or the fees that the farmers will be paying that will be able to sustain the organizations going forward. And also the profits that will be coming from the sales of the products that are being given to the market outside there. So that will help us then not to be relying always on the likes of the project implementing partners. If I could make an example of IFAD. IFAD is implementing a project for a particular period of time. It comes to an end, but then going forward, it's got to be the farmers themselves that are able to sustain the initiatives. I think that's one of the aspects that we have seen. Of course, there are other challenges which we have seen among our members from the Sugarcane. They are complaining about the profits as shareholders they are receiving, or the dividends. They're very low. And when we look among the many reasons behind that, it's the number of the members in one company that are supposed to be receiving the dividends. The more the number of the people, the lesser the number of the dividends they will get. And the painful thing is that as shareholders, they are seen as the least benefiting. Those that are benefiting are the other players in the value chain, including also the staff that is working in the companies. But the members or the shareholders themselves, they are the least benefiting. It's one of the issues that we have seen that needs to be addressed going forward. I think the PS also made mention of the issues of a subsistence approach. Lastly, I just want to mention that I think we need to work on making sure that we help the farmers to increase the scale of production and to shift out from subsistence production to commercialize their production. And also the capacity of our Ministry of Government, the Extension Service Department, I think is really requiring some capacity building or some support, because as we
Oops, we seem to have lost your audio.
Yes, let me say equipment of vehicles to the farmers. I know I can.
Okay, you are on mute. So if you want to unmute yourself to finish this thought.
Maybe it was my connection. I had come to an end of my brief presentation. Okay. I had handed over to you. My last reaction was the need for support towards the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, Extension Department, so that they are able to give the much needed support to farmers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for that. So our SEDECO colleague has put his comments or the answer to his question for sustainability in the chat. I'll just read it out loud. It's best to engage the target audience from the design stage so that they influence the intervention and take ownership from the onset. If they're part of the decision-making, chances are they will take ownership. The second point, we also need to improve on innovation platforms, especially bringing the private sector and address the bottlenecks together. The third point, adaptability is also key. We need to be flexible with the designs and be able to change accordingly. We should be open and able to fit in the changing environment. Very good point, sir. Thank you very much for those. And I'm sure that they will definitely be taken into account. Now, I am very cognizant of time. We have 5 more minutes for this session before I give the floor to Jana. What I would like to now do is perhaps, if we have Wellington Jogo, I would like to hear from you from a research perspective. How do you see, from a research organization perspective, how do you see this whole issue of sustainability, and how can you become an impetus to make sure that project sustainability and program sustainability is there?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, absolutely.
All right, okay, no, great. Thanks very much. So from a research perspective, well, my name is Wellington Jogo. I work for the International Potato Center, and I'm the project leader for what we call the Food Start Grant, and we have been working very closely with the SMLP project, basically leading the work on orange flesh sweet potato, yeah? So from a research perspective, the way we try to make sure that there's sustainability is to try to work very closely with the national program. We have been working very closely right from the start with DAS, the Department of Agricultural Research and Specialist Services, particularly the Mauken Station, the recent tuber section. And we try to make sure that the innovations, which are the sweet potato varieties in this case, are actually being evaluated, and the release process is being led by the national program itself. So as us as the International Potato Center are there to give technical backstopping, but the leadership of the process itself is actually taken by the national program. So that way, the capacity remains within the country itself. Our role is to build the capacity and of course, have the innovations also being led by the national program. The second aspect also on how we build sustainability from a research perspective is as we do the evaluation of the innovations, there are certain methodologies, participatory methodologies that we do apply. For instance, when we introduced the new varieties from Mozambique, we did what we call participatory varietal selection, in which we did set up the trials first on station, and also we did on-farm trials, because we want to make sure that the technologies we do release are actually adapted to the local context within the farmer environment. And in the process of the evaluation, we did, well, maybe some of you who are in Eswatini were actually involved in the process. We invited stakeholders for them to do the evaluation. There was a component on the agronomic evaluation where they see the yields. And the farmers themselves, they do select the varieties that they prefer, yeah? So it's not us actually imposing the innovations in a top-down approach, but it's the farmers themselves select what they prefer. And that actually helps in ensuring that the technologies that they actually select are adopted beyond just the test, yeah, the testing phase. So that ensures sustainability beyond basically just the project. Yeah, so farmers select what they prefer, and they then adopt what they have also selected in the evaluation process, and they can, be growing these varieties that they have selected in the evaluation process. So I think that's what I can say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wellington. Thanks a lot. So we have a question. We have Rechi Dalmini, who would like to talk about the industrialization of indigenous knowledge. So if you wish to take the floor, please do so before we go to the next segment and I give the floor to Jana.
Thank you and good afternoon to everybody, all protocol observed. My name is Rachel. I work for the National Maize Corporation, but I have experience in the development of agro-processing projects. And I observe that there is indigenous knowledge that exists that we are not currently industrializing. So there are products, processed products that have been created by families over generations, but they just make them at home. They don't view them as something that could be industrialized and put out there into the marketplace. So IFAD being the organization that they are, I just would like to understand whether they have mechanisms that could assist Eswatini take that direction so that we move along the value chain as a nation, which we currently haven't done on that facet of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you have raised a very important issue. And I'm sure if it doesn't get answered today, it will definitely get answered sooner rather than later. And who knows, maybe Jana will not exactly do that. So I want to thank everybody for your interventions, and it's exactly this kind of exchange that enriches the conversation and provides inspiring guidance for us to move forward. So Jana, I'm sure you're now super inspired and are looking forward to take on board the wonderful guidance, the ideas, and the innovations that you just heard. So please tell us, what is your vision for the forthcoming country strategy, and what are your plans to improve the ongoing IFAD-funded interventions? Over to you, Jana.
Okay, thank you so much, Roxy, and good afternoon, everybody, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. Before going to the details of the recommendations, I just would like to appreciate this report that we have been discussing today, that it has been surprisingly enormously rich in contents, recognizing the little time that the team had an opportunity to spend in Eswatini, and also from the perspective of the country program, most timely, as has been discussed, that we are just making a country strategy and also having initial reflections for the new design. So that was very much appreciated. I also would like to make use of this moment to recognize that the very fruitful partnership we have with the Kingdom of Eswatini. And like the report is highlighting, our partnership is growing stronger, and that has been reflected in many of the areas of the report during the 20 years of assessment. And just to say that development is definitely something that no institution can do alone. And we are very keen on continuing working very closely with the government like we are doing now, and also with other key stakeholders such as the UN family, other partners and beneficiaries. And our goal is to jointly to promote innovations and find shared visions and goals and approaches so that we can continuously continue improving the delivery of the country programs. That in the end is benefiting the rural people of Eswatini. About these recommendations and reactions, that's actually quite a task. The report is there's so many dimensions, and I was thinking I'd try to give you some examples that where the thinking goes first when I'm thinking of the recommendations, and some examples that the country program is doing currently, or ideas where we think that we have initiated the work, but we should do more, or something that we have to look at more for the future. If I go first for this first recommendation, which is speaking about fundamental constraints preventing rural smallholder producers, women and youth from achieving more sustainable livelihoods. We have both ongoing programs, SMLP and FINCLUDE. They have already very strong gender strategies, targeting and gender strategies. But I would like to mention one initiative that I think is something that is in the line of the thinking that we should do more and implement. And I'm referring to the Women Empowerment in Agriculture Index exercise that SMLP conducted in 2020. It was an exercise that was done together with a baseline to understand better the gender imbalances, and that as such was good, but as tools as often that they are as cool as you can make little use of them or much use of them. But in case of Eswatini, we organized a joint workshop with Zimbabwe, who has also conducted the same survey. And we started comparing the results and to reflect together why the scorings are different in the two countries. And that helped us to come with a very tailor-made strategies. I believe that such reflections are very important. On youth, FINCLUDE is our champion in youth, and the project has a youth target of 60%. I was listening to PS very carefully, and how the FINCLUDE is approaching youth is exactly like he was saying, that we don't want to make the youth to do what is the traditional agriculture if it doesn't even interest them. We are building on the special skills and areas of interest of the youth, so that they come like, how would I say, promoters of the businesses that have been created, instead of just like beneficiary numbers that we have to meet. And to do that, FINCLUDE has developed a very innovative youth engagement and communication strategy. And we have FINCLUDE is dividing youth for ages and for the different social situations. And the findings so far is that it's particularly difficult to reach younger youth who are under 25. And this is an area we have to innovate and reflect together what we could do to attract them in a meaningful manner for the project activities. Women and youth access of land. This is something that we have noted in our new country strategy, COSO, as an area of policy engagement, and we were thinking to approach this topic through best practices. Then we go for the second recommendation, and recommendation as it was formulated was referring to the LUCIP. But I wanted to take a little bit broader point of view and discussing the threats of sustainability of beneficiaries' livelihoods in general. And this is, of course, very broad area, and it covers many different aspects of both design and implementation. I was listening carefully, and Lynn Kota already made a very relevant intervention, emphasizing the importance of the exit and sustainability strategies, which actually is an essence, and we normally start doing them far too late. But like in the gender and youth, I would like to comment on a couple of interventions which I consider that are by nature like intending to provide good perspective for sustainability, and which we are, I think, in my view, doing quite well. I would like to refer to the very strong community work at chiefdom level and the community-driven land rehabilitation and biodiversity conservation that has been conducted by SMLP. How it's done, there is a good perspective for sustainability. From the institutional level, also wanted to comment you that FINCLUDE has adopted a very different collaboration mechanism compared to the previous projects who were relying on external service providers. FINCLUDE has a different approach, and that goes also for the recommendation number 3. FINCLUDE is promoting secondment of staff. And by doing that, we also assure that the knowledge is remaining in the country, and it's a capacity transfer, and it's very sustainable also if the knowledge is staying in the team, and so that was also discussed in the conversations. And another important approach of FinCLUD again is I wanted to comment of the self-managed cluster approach, and which is simply based on the very strongly bankable proposals, and which bring together all the value chain stakeholders who have a shared interest to collaborate in the natural manner. That also goes in line with the PS comments. And then also wanted to comment that we are initiating a new design, as has been mentioned before. And the country program has been, in my view, being quite good making use of the lessons learned. But what we want to do additional in this new design is that we want to make a very strong case of building on the concrete results by previous projects of IFAD funded or other projects in physical locations and with the specific beneficiaries in the field. And that goes in line with the recommendation which is referring to LUCIP. Recommendation 3 calls attention for IFAD and the Government of Eswatini to draw on the lessons learned to define the most efficient and effective implementation arrangement for joint initiatives that will allow smallholder producers to benefit the most. And as regards the recommendation number 3, I'm very happy to share the audience already that the Government of Eswatini and IFAD, we have discussed this recommendation, and we have agreed to organize a session to discuss the implementation strategies from LUCIP, RFEDP, SMLP, and FinCLUD, and also other projects, and try to analyze the different strategies that we have been using with strengths and weaknesses. And that will be also, of course, extremely important for the new design that we are initiating now. The fourth recommendation puts emphasis on the importance of the procurement and M&E functions. And IFAD has been strengthening these areas through increased technical support, but also improved systems. Highly qualified consultants are made available for ongoing implementation support and supervision, and capacity building is availed through trainings and workshops. And we are focusing on early implementation, in particular when these systems are created. About the procurement processes, I wanted to comment to you that since 2020, all IFAD projects migrated to an online non-objection system called Notus. And this has greatly increased the efficiency of the procurement function. And it has also reduced the risk of mistakes because system is guiding you. I'm sure that the project coordinators who are present here, that we have all observed a great improvement in that area. And as regard M&E innovations, I wanted to comment you that the current program is working with the geotagged M&E data and digital tools for monitoring and record keeping. And an interesting example I wanted to comment to you is the collaboration between FinCLUD and RERP project in Nepal. They are both cluster projects with some similarities in the design. And Nepal is sharing with Eswatini the model of innovative system of farmers' diaries for participatory monitoring. And as we move forward, we will seek out opportunities to collaborate more closely with the government to ensure that the M&E systems and capacities are strengthened and that quality and timeliness of data is improved as suggested in the report. So there was a lot of issues, but that's in the very nutshell how we are seeing these 4 recommendations. And just wanted to conclude saying once again, like I said in the beginning, that this report has been so timely and so opportune for our work, and really able to appreciate the collaboration we have had with the Office of Evaluation team. And this is benefiting us greatly, both for the ongoing country program, new COSOP, and also for the new design. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jana, for that very comprehensive annotated action for each recommendation. Thanks a lot for that. Now, it's a pleasure for me to give the floor to Sarah, who will share with us how IFAD East and Southern Africa team sees the strategic positioning of IFAD in the Kingdom of Eswatini and the actions that they will be implementing to support rural transformation. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roxana, and I hope you can hear me. So good afternoon, Excellencies, Minister of Agriculture, Mabuza, Minister of Finance, distinguished guests, IOE Director and team, and IFAD colleagues in general. I'd firstly like to take this opportunity to thank the Government of the Kingdom of Eswatini for their committed collaboration during the preparation of this important evaluation, despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which is affecting us all. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the IFAD finance projects in the Kingdom of Eswatini under the direction of ISWADE for leading on biodiversity protection, restoration, and conservation. The IFAD and the Gcf supported smallholder market-led project won the coveted Temvelo Award in biodiversity for 2 consecutive years now under Ms. Lynn Kota, the National Coordinator's leadership, which has set a very high bar for other countries, other country portfolio programs in Eastern Southern Africa. And this is one of many of the evidence that we have heard today of the achievements of the joint collaboration between IFAD and the Kingdom of Eswatini. So that definitely we will be learning from this program on how to scale up biodiversity and nature positive solutions across East and Southern Africa, because we are leading in this here. Finally, I would also like to thank IFAD's Independent Office of Evaluation, the director, the lead evaluator, Max, and Julia for such a comprehensive assessment of the country portfolio over the past 2 decades of convening this very important workshop. This evaluation, as others have said before me, comes at an opportune time when IFAD has an ongoing portfolio of approximately 63 million in lending and 8 million in grant financing to address nutrition and climate challenges. A new country strategic opportunities program and a new operation under IFAD 12 financing are under development, and they've all been formed by this important analytical work, as we heard from Yana just now, the country director. I will not reiterate the areas identified for improvement because these have been covered quite well, and the evaluation has provided that IFAD finance interventions need to address low productivity as a whole. This is a challenge that still continues across our portfolio in East and Southern Africa. Land access issues, but as I mentioned before, we are now looking at tenure security rather than outright ownership of land to men, women, and youth. The ongoing wheat producer and water user associations, and the question of sustainability and exit strategies. Fellow participants, 75% of Eswatini's population of 1.6 million depends on the agriculture sector, which has huge potential to become more commercialized, produce high-value crops sustainably, such as horticulture crops, potato, onions, carrots, soybeans, to improve farmer incomes and create employment. The new COSOP has 2 strategic objectives: to improve food systems through increased climate resilient productivity and nutrition, and increase commercialization of smallholder farmers through assets and capacity support, to graduate onto off-farm agro enterprises. This market orientation in the next strategic cycle is key, and this is also key for IFAD East and Southern Africa, promoting public-private partnerships, engagements directly with the private sector through our sovereign but also non-sovereign operations is evidence of that. So based on the evidence provided by the evaluation today, the potential to unlock investment in transformative programming in line with IFAD 12 ambitions in the context of the Kingdom of Eswatini are numerous. We have 4. So we can indeed design multi-phase programming, less complex implementation arrangements with continued strong community leadership and participation. We can target youth with off-farm, digital and commercial agriculture, which has been stated already by the colleague from the Ministry of Agriculture. We should continue to program based on the market, on sustainable market linkages, and forge partnerships with the private sector that ensure sustainable access to markets which provide more equitable prices to small-scale farmers. And the innovations in deepening financial markets, outreach of financial products and services, including de-risking instruments to promote inclusive rural finance and investment by small and medium enterprises, are all aspects which will be very important going forward. Scaling up landscape approaches that protect, restore, conserve land and biodiversity while recognizing and incentivizing communities will be part of the integral approaches that we are using for this financing cycle across the region. So as key action points going forward for the division, we are going to build on country level policy engagement. I think there's been very concrete suggestions in this evaluation, also in the debate around how we can align a policy agenda and generate and disseminate rigorous evidence going forward, and use regional platforms to exchange lessons and best practices. The second area of action for us is to really look at and combine with the biodiversity strategies that IFAD now has to partner in the protection, restoration, and conservation of biodiversity sinks and landscapes, not only in Eswatini, but across the region. And really by building on cases of collaboration with the Global Environment Facility, the Climate Adaptation Fund, and the Green Climate Fund and others, mobilize climate adaptation and mitigation finance going forward. In fact, we have done that with Climate Adaptation Fund. We have submitted a proposal that looks at groundwater recharging for 10 countries in Southern Africa. And Southern Africa has subscribed to that. And we do hope those types of regional initiatives will speak to some of the action and takeaway points I talk about today. 2022 is African Union Year of Nutrition, and IFAD will action new initiatives, and also will bring to scale the promotion of orange fleshed sweet potato together, and in partnership with the International Potato Center, the Department of Agriculture Research Services, as we just heard. This is bringing impacts and changing nutrition outcomes, and we want to scale that up. A fourth and very clear action in which we have, I've understood, already started prioritizing is leveraging digital solutions, including the deployment of geospatial tools for targeting, but also improving our monitoring and evaluation systems. And also really, because this is an innovative program, looking at e-marketing, e-extension, and e-financial service platforms. So this is a challenge to the national coordination teams, and also Liana under her leadership, to really see how we can leverage these aspects. And my very final point here, before I hand back to the moderator, is just to say that we are building and working together with ISWADE to strengthen the effectiveness and efficiency of our programs, looking at the procurement function, but also looking at FM-related aspects. We need the support of all stakeholders, and I count on the continued commitment of our friends here today to implement more efficient, effective, and sustainable projects in Eswatini. I'd like to end by appreciating Roxana for your moderation here, and the IOE evaluation team, as well as our valued and trusted government counterparts. Thank you. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you for that very clear vision for the way forward. We're coming to a close. We're coming to the close of this event. Howard actually now has the task of providing us the highlights and the main takeaways of this substantive and rich exchange. So Howard, over to you.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good afternoon, honorable ministers, distinguished IFAD representatives, and esteemed stakeholders. I think the bottom line of what has come out of this discussion and the report is that the partnership between IFAD and government is really flourishing. And it is opening opportunities for further improving the interventions, mainly targeting at reducing poverty through agriculture and inclusive financing that will help develop infrastructure and put opportunities to our smallholder farmers. So we learn here that the investment that have been made during this period from IFAD is about 41.3 million US dollars, and the total portfolio is around 351.7 million US dollars. However, it is the aspiration of both government and IFAD to mobilize more resources to capitalize the inclusive and sustainable growth of the agriculture sector. as such, there is a call to accelerate investment in climate resilient infrastructure and technologies, which are key in the emerging challenges for the sector. And IFAD has been identified as one of the preferred partners to help leverage such resources from strategic global facilities, as mentioned, the GCF, the adaptation funds out there. So the findings on the performance and rural impact were very encouraging, especially when you look at the relevancy, innovation, and upscaling aspects that have been mentioned here. Examples of rolling out of the CDPs, the innovative beef feedlots. So going forward, we are looking at more emphasis on these long-lasting policy level interventions, which we think at the moment it is opportune time because it has been indicated that the country is reviewing its agriculture investment plan, which its main focus is on putting together policy instruments to attract private sector investments and improve linkages with smallholder producers in some priority value chains. So such policy packages may help to improve the overall performance and impact issues raised in the report, access to finance, the issues enhanced to really engage in this agriculture agenda, not only on the on-farm activities, but also to act in the downstream activities of these value chains. So also we have noted the issue of capacity building for smallholder producers and their integration in the whole value chain, which is one of the areas of concern when you look at the sustainability of the activities that is raised in the report. So here it is noted that there are approaches that are being implemented under the FinClude project, which are making an early scaling of that program through the cluster approach. And the priority is to even move that a step further to build these value chain organizations, which are beyond just farmer groups, but include other actors in the value chain so that together they can have that bargaining power to inform the development plans of these value chains and also inform policy in terms of trade and encouraging local sourcing, which then creates a value to the smallholder farmer so that he is fully recognized of the effort that they can do and bring into these value chains. So we are looking forward to working on those interventions to strengthen the integration between all parties in these value chains. There are also observed challenges in the previous projects, especially LUCIP 1 project area, where there is an urgent a call for corrective measures to avoid the collapse of the irrigation schemes. Here, as indicated also by Yana, that the government and IFAD need to undertake an in-depth evaluation of the obtaining situation and implement investment action to improve the economic viability for the beneficiaries in these schemes, and also improve their technical capacity for management of the infrastructure and the enterprises that they are running there. It has been coming out that even off-farm opportunities need to be explored to ensure that the benefits continue to stream off those schemes that have been formed there. And then another key point is on the project management and implementation arrangements, where it is coming out that there is need for continuous improvement to better define and leverage the different roles of partners at all levels in terms of implementing of this project. The implementers on the ground at ministry level and at that high level partnership with the government and IFAD. And then we are looking that, as indicated in development of the new strategy and design of the future project, there is need to do a review of the implementation arrangements of the various projects that have been implemented, and then design a robust structure that will improve the delivery and overall efficiency in implementation of these projects going forward. And special attention has been the mention of M&E, the need to strengthen that. At government level, we are talking about evidence-based planning, which is also talking to the M&E systems that we need to build, such that projects are able to feed into government agriculture information system that talks to the whole country, so that it is easy to attribute the impacts that come with the investments that we are putting in. And I think more importantly on this one, there is the issue of procurement, which really affects the project as mentioned. It is coming out that IFAD and the implementing partner on the ground are already working on modernizing and prioritizing the procurement in this project, so that it is always timely and it does not affect the timelines and delivery of the projects. Thank you very much. I think those are the key points that has come out of this. And this is where we look at cooperating going forward to make sure that.
Thank you, Howard. You did
improve and accelerate building to the. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Howard. You truly did a sterling job in synthesizing the rich conversation. Now, this brings us to the end of this event. So I would like to first ask Indran to deliver his closing remarks, and then it will be a pleasure and honor to give the floor to the Minister of Finance, Honorable Rijingberg. So Indran, over to you.
Honorable Neil Rijingberg, Minister of Finance, distinguished representatives of the Government of Eswatini, representatives of IFAD, partner institutions and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD has undertaken impartial and evidence-based evaluations of the IFAD's country strategy and program. I believe that today's candid and engaging discussion has provided better insights in order to translate the evaluation findings and lessons into actions for greater impact of IFAD engagement in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Furthermore, we hope that these have provided valuable inputs for the finalization of the agreement at completion point, a short document that will summarize the main evaluation recommendations and follow-up actions agreed upon by the Government of Eswatini and IFAD management. Given the excellent collaboration thus far among IOE, the East and Southern Africa Division and the Government of Eswatini, we also believe that they will be reflected in the new country strategic opportunities program between IFAD and the government. As we conclude today's national workshop on the country strategy and program evaluation of Eswatini, I would like to reiterate my gratitude to the Government of Eswatini, especially the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Agriculture. I also wish to thank the project implementation teams and the development partners for participating in interviews, supporting the field visits, and for generally providing excellent inputs that have contributed to shaping the evaluation findings. Finally, I warmly thank all of you who have participated and shared so generously your views. We hope that today's workshop may spark further exchange and discussion among yourselves towards a country program that has a greater impact on eliminating poverty and improving the rural livelihoods for women, men, and youth of Eswatini. I thank you for your attention. Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you very much, Indran. It's now an honor to give the floor to the Honorable Minister of Finance, His Excellency Rajimberg, to formally close this virtual event. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, and Roxanne. Really appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this. I think just a few comments. First of all, just to appreciate, IFAD's focus on rural poverty alleviation. I think, not only from the loans point of view, but the targeted interventions from the personnel and from the teamwork that goes on a constant basis in the rollout of the programs, really make sure that we get the bang for our buck, really make sure that we actually get the impact of that. And so the way, not only the loans, the way things are done, I want to appreciate that as the Ministry of Finance and the Eswatini government. Maybe just touching on a few things, just listening to the discussions, I think maybe just to give just a 5,000-foot view on the eSwade model, which I passionately support. And I think one's talking of sustainability and one's talking, obviously, folks, there are obviously a lot of little issues around it. But I think the macros around the eSwade model, where one has organized farmers into organized landowners, rather, listening to the PS's point, landowners into groups, farming groups, and these farming groups, growing sugarcane, and there's obviously been a few failures, but mostly successes in that program. We have a situation where, if one talks sustainability, first of all, from a government point of view, when we have done a desktop study on KDDP, the first rollout of eSwade in the area, we found that the amount of primary taxation just on that project alone, we're not talking secondary tax, so not talking about secondary taxations that come out of these projects. Primary taxations pays the loan. So from a sustainability point of view, and I'm talking about the loan from the dam point of view, the loan from the canal point of view, infrastructure, whatever it is government did there. So really sustainable from a government point of view. Secondly, we then have the farming groups. And as much as, yes, we do have shareholders sometimes, getting zero out of, maybe they hit €1 or €2. But on average, we've got about 20,000 Emaswati shareholders amongst all the groups. And on average last year, each one received 15,000 Emalangeni, which, looking at the poverty levels down in the area, it is a substantial amount of money that goes into these areas and a substantial benefit that flows to these farmers. So with that model being such a success, we really, I think the focus just needs to remain, now that we've cracked it, because we can all look at 20 failed projects too, but this is a success, and it's succeeding from a high level. And hence, one really would like to see what we can do to roll this out, because as was mentioned here, we've obviously started in the low veld where the most extreme poverty was, but and high veld's a bit better where there's rain-fed, one has a higher rainfall, and because the higher rainfall, there's a bit of timber, guys can survive off. There's, you can plant a crop and it grows by itself. You don't need irrigation. Because of that, there hasn't been the focus there, but there is obviously a lot of poverty here. But what we are finding is half of our contoured agriculture lands in the high rainfall area are not being planted in a year, every year. And speaking to the PS's point, the youth or whoever the person is, they might just not want to do it. It might just not be interested. But everybody does want income. Everybody does want to reap the benefit from that land. So hence, the land is the asset. The land has got the value. If one forms a farming group and puts everyone together, whoever wants to work can work, as is being done, huge benefits flowing from that, but at least the shareholders get something for the land, which is currently not being utilized. By a farming group doing it, instead of one reaping at the current average of 1.5 to 1.7 tons a hectare, just a normal farmer doing it more commercially reaps about 6 tons a hectare. So just that benefit there, and utilizing all the land. Massive benefits. Now, I know that FinClude is looking at this. We are busy looking at rolling a few things out, but I really believe that's the focus, and you guys are really assisting us to try to get that right. And hence, just want to appreciate and just make sure that people in the room understand that and really, really appreciate that we are, the next phase is now not only LUCIP phase 2 and irrigated areas in the lowveld, but the country as a whole, what crops can be planted. We don't need irrigation to roll out the model. The model is the success, not necessarily anything else. And obviously, the other elements of FinClude speak very well to that. Otherwise, maybe just touch on the fact that sustainability as a country, we are kind of admit that we're failing from a maintenance point of view in general. So we're not great at maintaining things, not bad at building things and doing new things. When it comes to maintaining, we do really need to make sure that whatever we do roll out has a very clear maintenance program, has a be it a software package or be something managing the maintenance of that asset or of the structures of whatever it is that we are doing. We need to have extra focus there because we're not doing well. But something like a program, something like a constant reminder is really what we find can solve the problem and can fix it. Otherwise, we definitely do still have other issues in Eswatini. We would love constant support and help. The recommendations were brilliant. I really, when I looked at the report and looked at the recommendations, I agree fully that we need focus in those areas. But otherwise, just to appreciate the wonderful cooperation we have with the organizations in the room, appreciate the wonderful relationships that are being built, really good, healthy, strong dynamic between us where we can speak the truth, be able to put issues on the table, but at the same time work through them and deal with them as partners. Really appreciate a very healthy, wonderful partnership that we do have with IFAD especially. And otherwise, with those words, thank you to everyone. Thanks to organizations. Thank you to all the effort being put in. Also from the Eswatini side, appreciate Minister Agriculture, your team, the team from Finance, and all our international supporters and partners. And with those words, I call the meeting to an end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for those inspiring and passionate closing remarks. So this brings us to an end, and I hope you found the conversation informative, inspiring, and actionable. And again, thank you to everybody for making time this afternoon, especially the honorable ministers who made time from their busy schedule to join us this afternoon. Wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.